Welcome back to the social science class, class 10, history, chapter number 1, nationalism in Europe. Till now, we have done the various topics from the very starting. Let us recapitulate once again. The first topic of the chapter was the dream of Frederick Soriot, as he was an French artist. After that, we have completed the heading, the formation of nation states. Next was the sense of collective identity amongst the French people, Napoleonic Code, Napoleonic reforms, and the hostility of the Napoleon. The further topic was the making of nationalism in Europe. Under that, we did the aristocracies and the rise of new middle class people. And what did the liberal nationalism stand for the various groups of the people, like for the middle classes, political meaning of liberalism, social meaning of liberalism, as well as the meaning of liberalism in the economic sphere. Then we shifted towards the next topic, the new conservatism after 1815, in which the Treaty of Vienna was signed, the conservatism form of government was made, the revolutionary activities continued, and we studied the role of Giuseppe Mazzini. Then we commenced the chapter with the age of revolution, 1830 to 1848. Under the age of revolution, the various headings which were informed, like the 1830 July Revolution in France, Greek War of Independence, the Romantic Imagination, Hunger, Hardship, and Popular Revolt, 1848, the Revolution of the Liberals. We have done the explanation of 1830 July Revolution in France, in which the Duke Metternich once remarked that when France sneezes, the rest of the Europe catches cold. The next heading we did the Greek War of Independence, which was done in 1821, and as the Greece was referred, or as the Greece was lauded by the poets and artists, the cradle of European civilization, and mobilized the public opinion to support its struggle against the Muslim empire. Ultimately, the Greece got independence with the help of Treaty of Constantinople. Then we continued the topic with the romantic imagination and the national feeling. Under the romantic imagination, it was also referred as a cultural movement. The main role was played by the German philosopher Johann Gottfried Herder. And under the romantic imagination as a cultural movement, the role was played in the field of music as well as the languages, where the people made the music and language as their weapon to create the nationalism. Now let us move to the next topic, that is hunger, hardship, and popular revolt. In 1830s, the great economic hardship in Europe was seen. The first half of the 19th century saw an enormous increase in population all over the Europe. And in most countries, there were more seekers of job than employment. Population from the rural areas migrated to the cities to live in overcrowded slums. Small producers in towns were often faced with stiff competition from imports of cheap machine-made goods from England, where industrialization was more advanced than on the continent. This was especially seen so in the textile production, which was carried out mainly in the homes or small workshops and was only partially mechanized. In those regions of Europe where the aristocracy still enjoyed power, peasants struggled under the burden of feudal dues and obligations. And beside that, the rise of food prices or a year of bad harvest, all such situations led to widespread pauperism in town and country. Due to that, on the other hand, the year of 1848, the population of Paris came out on the roads and Louis Philippe was forced to flee, and the National Assembly was proclaimed and the Republic was formed in Paris. After the formation of Republic, the suffrage was granted to all male members above 21 years, and the right to work was also given. National workshops were provided to create an employment. In 1845, weavers in Silesia led a revolt against the contractor. The reason behind this revolt was the wages which were demanded by the workers. The journalist Wilhelm Wolff described one of the events in a Silesian village as follows. He described that in the village there lived 18,000 families. They were the cotton weavers, and the misery of the workers was extreme. Although all these workers were in a great need of job, and the contractors, on the other hand, has reduced the prices of the goods they order, due to which on 4th June at 2 p.m. a large crowd of the weavers emerged from their homes and marched in pairs up to the mansion of their contractors demanding higher wages. But there they were treated with scorn and threat. Following this, a group of them forced their way into the house, smashed its elegant window panes, furniture, porcelain. Another group broke into the storehouse and plundered its supplies of cloth, which they tore to shreds. The contractor, being worried, fled with his family to the neighboring village, but however, he didn't get shelter there. Ultimately, he returned back after 24 hours with an army, and in the exchange that followed, 11 weavers were shot. In 1848, the Revolution of Liberals was created. Parallel to the revolts of the poor, unemployed, and starving peasants and workers in many European countries in the year of 1848, a revolution led by the educated middle class was underway. Events of the February 1848 in France had brought about the abdication of the monarch, and a republic based on universal male suffrage had been proclaimed. In other parts of the Europe where independent nation states did not yet exist, such as Germany, Italy, Poland, and Austro-Hungarian Empire, men and women of the liberal middle classes combined their demands for constitutionalism with national unification and the creation of the nation state. On parliamentary principles it was based, demanding a constitution, freedom of the press, and freedom of association. In the German regions, a large number of political associations whose members were middle-class professionals, businessmen, and prosperous artisans came together in the city of Frankfurt and decided to vote for an all-German National Assembly. On 18 May 1848, 831 elected representatives marched in a festive procession to take their places in the Frankfurt Parliament convent in the Church of St. Paul. There, they drafted a constitution for a German nation to be headed by a monarch subject to a parliament. And when the deputies offered the crown on these terms to Frederick William IV, the King of Prussia, he rejected it and joined other monarchs to oppose the elected assembly. While the opposition of the aristocracy and military became stronger, the social basis of parliament eroded. The parliament was dominated by the middle classes who resisted the demand of workers and artisans and consequently lost their support. In the end, the troops were called in and the assembly was forced to disband. Beside that, on the other hand, the political rights of women were not given during the time of liberal movement, due to which women also did not support. And when the Frankfurt Parliament convened in the Church of St. Paul, women were admitted only as observers to stand in the visitors' gallery. Though the conservative forces were able to suppress liberal movements in 1848, they could not restore the old order. Monarchs were being Monarchs were beginning to realize that the cycle of revolution and the repression could only be ended by granting concessions to the liberal nationalists, only by ended by the monarchs were beginning to realize that the cycles of the revolution and the repression could only be ended by granting the concession to the liberal nationalist revolutionaries. So hence, in the year after 1848, the autocratic monarchies of the Central and the Eastern Europe, they began to introduce the changes that had already taken place in Western Europe before 1815. Under that sequence, the serfdom and the bonded labor were abolished and the Hungarians were granted more autonomy. Let us move to the next topic of the chapter, that is the unification of the various countries. Among them, we will do firstly the making of Germany and Italy. The incidence of Germany. Here we can say that Germany, can the army be architect of a nation? After 1848, the nationalism in Europe moved away from its association with democracy and revolution. Nationalist sentiments were often mobilized by the conservatives for promoting state power and achieving political domination over Europe. This can be observed in the process by which the Germany and Italy came to be unified as a nation state. At that time, the middle-class Germans, who in 1848 tried to unite the different regions of the German Confederation into a nation state, governed by an elected parliament. This liberal initiative to nation building was, however, repressed by the combined forces of monarchy and the military, supported by the large landowners of Prussia, who were called as Junkers. From then on, Prussia took on the leadership of the movement for national unification. In that series, the chief minister Otto von Bismarck was the architect of this process, who carried out with the help of Prussian army and bureaucracy. He fought the three wars for over 7 years with Austria, Denmark, and France, ended in Prussian victory, and completed the process of unification in January 1871. The Prussian king William I was proclaimed German emperor in a ceremony held at Versailles. The ceremony was held at the unheated Hall of Mirrors in the Palace of Versailles on the bitterly cold morning of 18 January 1871. In that assembly, the Prince of the German States, representatives of the army, important Prussian ministers, including the chief minister Otto von Bismarck, gathered for the ceremony. The new German Empire was headed by the Kaiser William I of Prussia. After the crowning ceremony, the nation-building process in Germany had demonstrated the dominance of Prussian state power. Under that, the new state placed a strong emphasis on modernizing the currency, banking, legal and judicial systems in Germany. And the Prussian measures and the practices often became a model for rest of the Germany. Let us move to the next unification of the country, that was Italy. Italy was divided into 7 states, of which Sardinia Piedmont, ruled by an Italian princely states, the north was under the Austrian Habsburg, the central part was ruled by the Pope, and the southern region was under the Bourbon kings of Spain. In the unification of the Italy, the important role were played by some of the important personalities, the famous personalities. Among them, initially the unification program was initiated by Giuseppe Mazzini. Giuseppe Mazzini, he has formed the secret societies called as Young Italy and Young Europe at Berne, Young Italy in Marseilles and Young Europe in Berne. But the revolutionary uprisings, both in 1831 and 1848, failed. And due to this failure of the uprising, the mantle now fell on the Sardinia Piedmont under its ruler, King Victor Emmanuel II, to unify the Italian states through war. The next important personality was Camillo Benso Conte di Cavour. He was a chief minister and he led the movement to unify the regions of Italy. Although he was neither a revolutionary nor a democrat. He spoke French much better than Italian, as the wealthy and educated members of the Italian elite used to speak. Through a tactful political alliance with France engineered by Cavour, Sardinia Piedmont succeeded in defeating the Austrian forces in 1859. Besides that, one of the important personality, the revolutionary named as Giuseppe Garibaldi, also played a very important role in the unification of Italy. A large number of armed volunteers under the leadership of Giuseppe Garibaldi joined the fray. In 1860s, they marched into the South Italy and the Kingdom of Two Sicilies. They succeeded in winning the support of the local peasants in order to drive out the Spanish rulers. In 1861, Victor Emmanuel II was proclaimed the King of United Italy. Much of the Italian population, maximum illiterate, remained blissfully unaware of the liberal nationalist ideologies. The peasants' masses who had supported Garibaldi in southern Italy had never heard of Italia and believed that the La Talia was Victor Emmanuel's wife. So here we wind up with the third part of this chapter. The fourth part we will commence in the next series. Thank you.